Chapter 8:16. The night was getting darker. Mount Dibbing became brightly lit. Recently, the security measures on Mount Dibbing had been upgraded by several levels under Wuxia Xianxia's personal intervention. After he came back from the desert prison yesterday, he officially ordered that Mount Dibbing would enter a state of war from that day on. Wuxia Xianxia officially signed the expansion document of the Internal Defense Force of Mount Dibbing at noon that day. The document had been officially issued to the Beihai Corps. The new vice-marshal of the Beihai Corps, Firmament, had begun to study the list. Wuxia Xianxia made it clear that in the next week to half a month, the scale of the Internal Defense Force of Mount Dibbing would be expanded from 13,000 people to 30,000 people. It was necessary to ensure that there would be no less than 15,000 combatants on Mount Dibbing 24 hours a day. Today, Mount Dibbing was very busy and lively. The camp of the Internal Defense Force on the mountainside was expanding. A large number of weapons began to be installed in countless corners of Mount Dibbing. The Internal Defense Force began to have patrol codes. Everything was arranged one by one, clear and distinct. The entire Mount Dibbing seemed to have suddenly become an unbreakable and indestructible war fortress. With a large number of armaments and new elite combatants settled in the night, Mount Dibbing, which had been completely destroyed and began to slowly recover, looked extremely powerful and ferocious in the night. A middle-aged man, who looked travel-worn, stood quietly at the foot of Mount Dibbing. The light illuminated the foot of Mount Dibbing as if it were daytime. He stood quietly in the light, looking up at Mount Dibbing quietly, motionless and silent. One patrol team after another slowly walked past him, carefully observing the surrounding environment. The density of the entire Mount Dibbing was several times higher than before. The atmosphere on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain was solemn and rigorous. But it didn't seem so nervous. The slowly moving white light once again swept over the middle-aged man. The monitoring system on Mount Dibbing didn't respond. The patrol team that constantly passed by him also didn't respond. A small space around the middle-aged man seemed to be slightly wrinkled. The wrinkles completely covered his body, but only covered his body, blocking all the light, shadow, and heat. Under the light, he was like a ghost standing in the nothingness. It was quiet on Mount Dibbing, with a touch of serenity in the solemnity. He looked up at Beihai seriously, sizing it up bit by bit, as if he was feeling something. Mount Dibbing was still the same. But he vaguely noticed that Mount Dibbing seemed to be different from the past. At the very least, it was different from the last time he came. What had changed here was not the terrain that had been changed by that mysterious prodigy's sword. Instead, it was a vague but real feeling, or rather, a change. He didn't know what he was looking for here. If he was a specter, then he was searching for another specter. Wisps of sword chi spread under his feet. The invisible and majestic sword chi was like a huge net, spreading out on the ground along the soles of his feet. In an instant, it had enveloped thousands of meters around the foot of the mountain. Within the scope of the sword chi, every grass and every tree at the foot of Mount Dibbing was clearly sensed by him. But there was nothing. He frowned, hesitated, and took a step forward. The light faded into the distance. He stood on the mountainside. It seemed that there was no longer the strict surveillance at the foot of the mountain, but the overall defense was even more dense. Chaos was coming to Beihai. The actions between the Vatican, East Island, and the Jianghu family of South America had become more and more obvious. The several superpowers had not revealed their intention to Beihai yet, but their cooperation was gradually exposed. Wuxia Xianxia, who realized that the enemy was approaching, set up defenses throughout Beihai. But he did not ignore the defense of Mount Dibbing. Everyone knew very well that no matter what the goals of the superpowers were, no matter how chaotic Beihai would be, the final location of this war would be Mount Dibbing. This was the place where Wuxia Xianxia prepared the final battle. The sword chi continued to spread. In the middle-aged man's perception, in the dark corners, countless elites of the Wang family of Beihai were lurking and observing the situation on the mountain. A large number of long-range snipers. Fire-flaming realm, and occasionally, thunder-shocking realm experts. His expression was calm as he searched quickly. The dense sword intent continued to spread, surging unceasingly. No one found his trace. Even when he was doing all this, he was standing next to a thunder-shocking realm expert from the Wang family of Beihai. The two sides were less than 2 meters away from each other, but the other side had been observing the front. There was still silence on the mountainside. His expression did not change at all. He just narrowed the range of the sword intent and searched more carefully. The night was getting darker. After the night. When dawn was about to break, he had searched the entire mountainside of Mount Dibing. He found nothing. The top of the mountain was ahead. He frowned and continued to go up. The tide rose and fell. The tide-like sword Qi on the stage of formidable person began to retreat to Beihai. Wang Xianxia, who had been in the most focused state of meditation, slowly opened his eyes, feeling refreshed. He slowly stood up and looked at the still dark night over Beihai. He looked extremely comfortable. The majestic and unimaginable sword Qi was pulled out little by little from the stage of formidable person. This sword Qi seemed to have merged with every drop of water in Beihai. It was extremely soft and incredibly tolerant. Wang Xianxia gently raised his palm. The invisible sword Qi retreated from his hand to Beihai. Such a touch was invisible to the naked eye. But the feeling was extremely clear. It was strand after strand of sword Qi that revolved without end, and they seemed to be formed by nature and were flawless. Every rotation of the sword Qi seemed to represent the real supreme swordsmanship. The sword Qi that surged to the stage of formidable person did not appear for a long time. But no one knew that Wang Xianxia had broken through several small realms in just a few days while surrounded by the sword Qi. Every time he meditated, it could be said that he truly advanced by leaps and bounds. The sword Qi that was integrated with the sea was like his biggest thought and the most invincible inheritance of Beihai. He closed his eyes and faced the ocean, as if he was reluctant to part with it. Streams of sword Qi appeared around him one after another, spinning continuously. It seemed that the sword Qi of the same origin had merged instantly. Wang Xianxia straightened his body. His perception was magnified infinitely in an instant. He felt the torrent on the seemingly calm sea of Beihai. He felt the sharpness and purity of the sword Qi traveling in the sea. The vast Beihai was slightly stirring. The sword Qi merged. His perception kept flying away and he felt the other side of the sword Qi. Wang Xianxia gently raised the corner of his mouth. He waved in that direction and said good morning. In the next second, the majestic sword Qi suddenly reversed its direction. Wang Xianxia was passively integrated with the sword Qi. A small amount of sword Qi gathered on the stage of formidable person, pulling Wang Xianxia's perception to cover the top of Mount Dibing. The pavilions, the chirping of birds, and the patrolling internal security troops all appeared in his perception. A familiar figure was standing in front of a palace in the center of the top of the mountain, staring at the palace, as if thinking about whether to go in or not. The palace was located in the center of the top of the mountain. It could be said to be the largest palace on Mount Dibing. Emperor Hall. The palace. The place where the patriarchs of the Wang family of Beihai lived. Although Wang Xianxia had never lived in it, it could be said to be his residence now. No, the entire Beihai could be said to be his. Wang Xianxia suddenly opened his eyes and his pupils contracted rapidly. He subconsciously took out his phone and found Firmament's number. But after thinking for a while, he put the phone back. Then, without any hesitation, he walked down the stage of formidable person and went directly to Emperor Hall. He was the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai. No matter what he faced, there was no possibility for him to retreat or hide. Especially on Mount Dibing. The patrols passed by Wang Xianxia one by one, and everyone greeted him respectfully. Wang Xianxia responded with a smile and didn't say much. He didn't blame the patrol team for not discovering the distinguished guest, who had rashly come to the door. With that person's current strength, if he didn't want to be discovered, no matter where he appeared, few people could find him. Making things difficult for these ordinary elites would only disappoint them. When approaching Emperor Hall, he waved his hand to call a patrol captain over, pointed to the direction of the kitchen, and said with a chuckle, "Go tell the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Make it rich." The captain saluted and quickly rushed to the kitchen. Wang Xingxiao carefully tidied up his clothes and slowly walked to Emperor Hall. The darkness on the horizon began to recede slowly. Dawn was coming, and there was a hazy shimmer on Mount Dibbing. Near Emperor Hall, all the elites of the internal security troops raised their hands and saluted as soon as they saw Wang Xingxiao. Everyone was respectful, but also a little confused. Because Wang Xingxiao had been on the stage a formidable person since he became the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai. He had never stayed here for a night. What was wrong with him today? Wang Xingxiao nodded and didn't say much. He just looked at Emperor Hall, which was close at hand. The sword energy on the stage of formidable person had retreated to the deep sea. In front of Wang Xingxiao, there was no one else except this luxurious palace and the elites of the internal security troops. Or rather, there was no one else. But Wang Xingxiao couldn't see it. Wang Xingxiao laughed at himself and walked over with the memory he had just felt. This position, if he was right, should be standing right next to him. The shimmer on the horizon flickered slightly. He raised his head and imitated the man's movements, watching quietly for a long time. The middle-aged man who had been searching on Mount Dibbing all night turned his head and looked at Wang Xingxiao. The distance between the two was less than 1 meter. Wang Xingxiao couldn't feel his aura. But he could clearly see every expression on Wang Xingxiao's face. He narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling a little confused. Wang Xingxiao looked up at the palace in front of him and slowly opened his mouth. His voice was soft and slow. However, it exuded an aura of absolute majesty. Since when has Mount Dibbing in Beihai become a place where others can come and go as they please? Everyone nearby was stunned for a moment. The elites of the internal security troops suddenly became nervous. They grabbed the guns in their hands and looked vigilant. The middle-aged man was obviously stunned for a moment. He didn't think Wang Xingxiao was bluffing. Otherwise, the location wouldn't be so coincidental. So, was he exposed? He thought about it and shook his head with a smile. The sword energy in the nothingness slowly shrank. The folds of space around the middle-aged man were instantly smoothed out. He looked a little tired but not haggard. He appeared in front of Wang Xingxiao and said with interest, "How did you find me?" Wang Xingxiao slowly turned around and looked at the gentle smiling face beside him. He said quietly, "Long time no see, Uncle Lin." Chapter 8:17. Crack. There was no uproar or chaos before Emperor Hall. In the face of the sudden change, the elites of the internal security forces of Mount Dibbing showed a completely rare quality. All the people who saw this scene raised their guns in silence and pulled the bolts. The black muzzles were aimed directly at the middle-aged man who suddenly appeared, as if they could fire at any time. Uncle Lin. This title sounded really polite. No matter what the relationship between this man and Wang Xingxiao was, for today's Mount Dibbing, he was indeed a veritable uninvited guest. He came uninvited, sneaked around, and hid his head but showed his tail. These words could all be applied to him. This was really an extremely embarrassing thing. Lin Fengting was a little embarrassed and even a little guilty. It was hard to describe the feeling of being discovered soon after he came with full confidence. He coughed dryly, looked at Wang Xingxiao in front of him, and asked slowly, "How did you find me?" This was what he couldn't figure out the most. His talent in martial arts was indeed more terrifying than others had imagined, even slightly better than Li Guangtu's. In the chaos in Eastern Europe, he broke through the limit of the peak of the invincible realm and entered a new world. For today's dark world, he was really the top expert in the dark world. No one was his opponent. However, what many people didn't know was that breaking through the limit of the peak of the invincible realm was not his end. He was indeed only half a step away from the chosen one, but this half step was also big or small. He stood at the forefront of this half step and could vaguely see the end of martial arts. This feeling was very subtle. Not all people who broke through the limit of the peak of the invincible realm could stand at this height. This feeling, if really put into detail, was very much like the state when Wang Tianzong broke through the last step. However, Lin Fengting knew very well that he could only stop here. It was precisely because he could see the end of martial arts that he could clearly understand what he needed to pay in order to reach that step. Talent, luck, personal will, physical fitness, all of these were indispensable. But unfortunately, Lin Fengting almost did not have any of these conditions. To a martial artist, this was the saddest thing. Martial arts cultivation was originally a road to heaven, but not everyone could reach the end of this road. Every day, at every moment, someone would discover this fact. Maybe it was from the ice-condensing realm to the fire-flaming realm, or from the fire-flaming realm to the thunder-shocking realm, or from the thunder-shocking realm to the invincible realm. There were always some checkpoints in front of them, telling them that they could only go this far and could not go any further. Lin Fengting never thought that he would be stuck at this step. He was naturally disappointed, but he seemed to have been too lazy all his life, so even his disappointment was not too obvious. After adjusting his mood, he quickly stopped worrying about this matter. He could see the scenery at the finish line. But he couldn't cross it. If I can't, then I won't go. A stable state of mind allowed him to completely stabilize his new breakthrough. He stood at the peak of the dark world, and his ability to hide his sword energy was unparalleled in the world. It was impossible for the Wang family of Beihai to detect his presence. So how did Wang Xingxiao find him? Wang Xingxiao shook his head and said nothing. He really couldn't find Lin Fengting. If the sword intent from the deep sea hadn't gone against the flow, maybe Lin Fengting wouldn't know that the other party had been here even if he turned Beihai upside down. However, these topics could not be talked about with Lin Fengting, and there was no need to talk about them. Beihai. The Lin clan. The two of them may have been close and reliable partners for many, many generations. But after the chaos in Eastern Europe ended, they should both know that even if they were not enemies, they were not friends. Lin Fengting waited for a while and seemed to understand something. He glanced at him and said with a chuckle, I know that Mount Dibbing will not welcome me now. Xingxiao, I come here with no malice. I believe you. Wang Xingxiao nodded and said briefly. He believed what Lin Fengting said was true. With Lin Fengting's current strength, if he went all out regardless of the consequences, he could bring unimaginable disaster to Mount Dibbing alone. He might not be as good as the mysterious Chosen One, who almost destroyed Mount Dibbing with one sword strike. But unless the Wang family of Beihai was willing to die with him, there was really no other way. Uncle Lin, what are you doing here? Wang Xingxiao asked in a calm voice. When he was young, he liked Uncle Lin very much. He was not as serious and silent as his father. Instead, he was easy to get along with. So much so that for a period of time, he even yearned to live in the Lin clan. However, everything in the past had become a fleeting cloud. Now when he saw this uncle, there was only defensiveness left in his heart. Nothing. I just came to have a look. Lin Fengting said insincerely. He seemed to think of something and said with a smile, How is it? Has Song Xi given birth? Is it a boy or a girl? At the last moment when Li Tianlan swept across Beihai, he appeared in Mount Dibbing and knew the news that Song Xi was pregnant. It should have been a while since the little fellow was born. It's a boy. Wang Xingxiao's face softened for a moment, then he shook his head and said, But now they are not in Mount Dibbing. I can't let you see them. What a pity. Lin Fengting sighed with some regret. Then there was silence. Neither of them spoke. Wang Xingxiao still looked at him, quiet, calm, without any emotion. Lin Fengting didn't know what to say. He didn't expect to be found here. Now he was caught. It seemed that whatever he said was wrong, but it didn't seem right to say nothing. Hide again? Lin Fengting recalled Wang Xingxiao's performance just now. Although he didn't know how the other party found him, he felt that if he hid again, Wang Xingxiao might not be able to find him again. But Lin Fengting couldn't be so shameless after all. Should he just leave? Thinking about it, he felt a little unwilling. I'm here to confirm something. Lin Fengting was silent for a long time before he spoke. This time, he didn't hide anything and simply told the truth. What is it? Wang Xingxiao raised his eyebrows, but his body tensed up. Have you seen it? Lin Fengting asked. Wang Xingxiao frowned and shook his head, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't have to hide anything. In fact, it's meaningless to hide. Let's not talk about our current relationship. At the beginning, Beihai and the Lin clan were inseparable. I can know the existence of that thing. How can you not know? Or, did you misunderstand the meaning of inseparable? Do you think Beihai can have that thing? Doesn't the Lin clan have it? Lin Fengting asked. Wang Xingxiao frowned more tightly. He glanced at Lin Fengting and said slowly, I didn't mean that, but I really don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know why you think so. Human Emperor. Lin Fengting said calmly, a day ago, I was still enjoying the spring in the southern hemisphere, but I learned the conditions you negotiated with Tianlan. You're willing to hand over the Human Emperor, so there's only one possibility. That thing has recovered. We have no choice but to hand over the Human Emperor. We do need the help of Li Tianlan and Emperor Dong's palace, but this doesn't prove anything. Really? Lin Fengting asked blandly. The Human Emperor is the core foundation of the Wang family of Beihai, and in your current situation, you may not have to use such an important thing to make allies. This is not a choice. In my opinion, this is giving up. You can give up the Human Emperor only because the Wang family of Beihai has something better than the Human Emperor. Xingxiao, what are you worried about? Are you worried that I'll take it by force? Even if I'm really so despicable, that thing is here. Can I take it away? I'm not even sure if I'm a match for it. In that case, why are you so persistent? Just to have a look. Just to have a look. Lin Fengting nodded seriously. To see what it is that can really protect such a glorious family. Uncle Lin, you can go home and have a look. Wang Xingxiao stared at Lin Fengting's face. You just said that the Lin clan also has what the Wang family of Beihai has. That's why I came to have a look. I can't find that thing. He spread his hands. I can't find it in Beihai, nor can I find it in the Lin clan. It's been decades, and I don't know where it is. I only know that it's within the scope of Worry-Free Villa. Who knows what it is? If you can't find it, can Beihai find it? Wang Xingxiao shook his head. I know you can't find it either, but that was before. But now you've given up on the Human Emperor, so I can only think that during this period of time, you've established some kind of connection with it. I want to see it and even want to know how to make it recover. This is very important for the Lin clan. Lin Fengting looked at Wang Xingxiao with a serious and peaceful expression. He really just wanted to have a look. And it seemed that he could only have a look. Wang Xingxiao shook his head. I can tell you that it does exist, but I can't give you other answers. He moved his body and said, Uncle Lin, if you don't want to have breakfast here, I'll arrange a car to take you down the mountain. Lin Fengting narrowed his eyes. He hesitated, changed the angle, and tentatively said, what if I have to have a look? Wang Xingxiao's tightly frowned brows raised slightly for a moment. Does it make sense? He asked. If it doesn't want to see you, you can't find it. For it, neither the Lin clan nor Beihai is the place it wants to protect. It just wants to be complete. At this time, it can't take any risks. Lin Fengting was silent. Wang Xingxiao smiled. He was a little tired and whispered, Uncle Lin, don't force me. I'm no match for you now. But since you're on Mount Dibbing, I'm not helpless. I just don't want to become that kind of monster. I don't want to kill you until that point. That thing shouldn't be used on you. Chapter 8:18. In Samsara Palace, Saint was the most idle. In Emperor Dong's palace, Saint was also the most idle. Different positions meant different responsibilities to be shouldered. Military Counselor and Flaming Fire's original positions were to escort Li Tianlan's growth. One of them mastered force, and the other mastered resources. Both of them could play an irreplaceable role in Li Tianlan's growth. But Saint was different. From the very beginning, he was regarded by the master of Samsara Palace as Li Tianlan's future right-hand man. Now Li Tianlan was cultivating his sword in the desert prison. As his right-hand man, Saint had nothing to do other than guarding the wounded in the hospital. The power inside Mount Shu was now shifting. Nirvana's sword was still transcendent. But Han Chongyang, the Yin and Yang sword master, had begun to appear more and more in public view and began to shoulder the responsibility of the head. For more than a year, Saint had been staying in the hospital and hadn't even returned to Mount Shu. He was withdrawing. Even Nirvana's sword was put back in Mount Shu as he joined Emperor Dong's palace. That was the place where he grew up. His family, including his parents, were all from Mount Shu. That place had given him too many things. Joining Emperor Dong's palace was his promise and responsibility. But obviously, he didn't want to involve Mount Shu when he was already involved in the internal game of Jianghu state. The days of guarding the hospital were very ordinary. He was a wounded person and spent most of his time in his ward. He rarely appeared unless there were special circumstances. As for entertainment, he occasionally played poker with Gong Sun Qi and chess with Situ Tsangyue, so he didn't feel bored. But as the atmosphere between the parliament and Beihai kept changing, especially after he followed Wang Xingxiao to the Wang family of Beihai 3 days ago, the atmosphere of the whole hospital seemed to be changing. More and more people came to the hospital. Everyone had their own reasons to visit Saint and the wounded, but there was only one purpose: to test the specific attitude of Emperor Dong's palace. Saint received some people patiently, but within a day, he shut himself in the ward again and refused to visit, saying that he was not feeling well. It's not good to hide like this. In the quiet ward, black and white were intertwined on the delicate chessboard. Situ Tsangyue put down the chess piece in her hand, looked at Saint, and said with a faint smile, "Today, a lot of people came. What can I do? Everyone wanted an attitude from me, but the problem was, how could there be an attitude in this matter?" Tianlan was still in the desert. Someone went to the desert to ask him. One by one, they came to torment him. What was this? Bully the weak and fear the strong? Saint said grumpily. Whether before or now, although there was a gap in age between the two, there was no difference in status. No one would think that the status of the city governor of Sai City was much higher than that of the sword master of Mount Shu, especially Wei Kunlun, the first sword master. Now that he had entered the invincible realm, the difference in status between the two had been completely wiped out, and they were completely equal when communicating. Someone's gone. Situ Tsangyue smiled and said, "Didn't the president and the prime minister go?" Saint was silent for a while and shook his head, not knowing what to say. Has Tianlan really decided? Situ Tsangyue said, "Fully cooperate with the Wang family of Beihai?" Saint agreed and said frankly, "There is no good choice. Tianlan may think about the future of Emperor Dong's palace and nothing else. But in my opinion, if he accepts the conditions of the president and the prime minister, Kunlun City will inevitably fight back with all its strength. At that time, the situation will be more chaotic. This choice is good for everyone. A lot of people are waiting for you to say that." Situ Tsangyue said thoughtfully. "It will take some time. Emperor Dong's palace, the giant group, the southeast group, and the Wang family of Beihai all need some time to prepare." Saint shook his head. It was really not the time to show his attitude. Although he had shown some obvious inclinations when he went to the Wang family of Beihai with Wang Xingxiao, since he did not make it clear, Jianghu state would not take any drastic action. But even so, he paid a little price for going to the Wang family of Beihai. 3 days was not a long time, but a batch of funds originally planned to be secretly allocated to Xianyuan City was temporarily put on hold. It could not be said that Jianghu state was overly sensitive or petty. It was just a warning. Jianghu state was also using this reaction to show their determination. There was no doubt that once Emperor Dong's palace completely decided to cooperate with the Wang family of Beihai, then Jianghu state would not hesitate to fully suppress Emperor Dong's palace. Such a reaction also made Saint secretly vigilant. At least at this time, he could not show the attitude of Emperor Dong's palace to the outside world. They might not have too much time, but the later they showed their attitude, the better. Every extra day meant one more day of preparation. At that time, they would not be struggling under the suppression of Jianghu state. Drag it on. Saint took a light breath and laughed at himself. When it can't be dragged on, life will be difficult. How long do you think it will last? Situ Xianxia asked. Emperor Dong's palace, the Wang family of Beihai, and the parliament. The game was only an internal matter of Jianghu state. No matter how tragic it was, no one would really define the other party as an enemy. Now both sides of the game only needed a result. Whether the result was good or bad, as long as it appeared, it meant the end of the matter. After the game, the next step was naturally to compromise. After Emperor Dong's palace showed its attitude, the following days would indeed be very difficult. But as long as the result appeared and a new balance and conditions acceptable to all parties were reached, the assistance would continue. This itself was the condition of balance, and it could even be said to be the most important condition. Who knows? Saint shook his head. Maybe it will be very fast, maybe it will be very slow. I guess at least we have to wait until this time next year. You won't do anything this time? Situ Xianxia was a little curious. Saint nodded and said calmly, Minister Wei Tianheng came to see me yesterday. Situ Xianxia's eyes narrowed and became extremely focused. Wei Tianheng. He was a member of the Parliament of Jianghu State and the Deputy Minister of the Army Headquarters. He ranked below Dongqing Wudi and Yi Dongsheng and was in charge of national defense. He was one of the leaders of the Prince Group who stood on the front stage now. In terms of blood relationship, he was Saint's eldest brother. They were brothers who were 13 years apart. However, the relationship between the two was not very good. To some extent, it could even be said to be bad. If Emperor Dong's palace cooperated with Beihai, the cooperation between the giant group and the southeast group would inevitably be closer. The army headquarters would also become one of the main battlefields of the game. At that time, Wei Tianheng would face the double pressure from Dongqing Wudi and Yi Dongsheng. So it was completely understandable that he could not sit still and came here first. What did he say? Situ Xianxia said slowly. He told me that if Emperor Dong's palace chose to stand by Mount Dibing, then this game would become a real war. He asked me if Emperor Dong's palace was ready to be defeated. Saint held the chess piece in his hand, expressionless. Ha! Situ Xianxia sneered. How did you answer him? I don't need to answer anything, and I don't think he is in the mood to listen to me. Saint shook his head. There is nothing to answer. At this point, we can only move forward. If we don't win, we will die. Let's go all out. Chapter 8:19. Lin Fengting stayed in Mount Dibing for 3 consecutive days. Wang Xianxiao entertained him with good food and drinks and didn't insist on driving him away. The Lin clan and the Wang family of Beihai might not be friends now, but at least they were not enemies. Obviously, they didn't want to treat each other as enemies. Lin Fengting came to Mount Dibing uninvited, but since he was here, Wang Xianxiao, as a junior, naturally had to show due courtesy. Lin Fengting was arranged to stay in a palace not far from Emperor Hall. During the day, Wang Xianxiao accompanied him almost all the time. At night, a large number of elites of the internal security force faintly surrounded the palace. They didn't hide their defensive posture at all. It was clear that they hoped Lin Fengting would leave as soon as possible. Wang Xianxiao stayed in the stage of formidable person at night. The sword intent from the deep sea filled the stage of formidable person. He integrated with the sword intent and could clearly feel every corner of Mount Dibing, observing Lin Fengting's movements. Lin Fengting didn't intend to look for that thing. Although he didn't move, the dense sword energy was shuttling in every corner of the top of the mountain, starting from the palace where he lived. Wang Xianxiao could clearly feel the fine cracks caused by the opponent's sword energy tearing the space. But Lin Fengting never noticed the majestic sword energy on the stage of formidable person. Wang Xianxiao was calm and collected. In his perception, Lin Fengting had used sword qi to search every corner of Mount Dibing in the past 3 days, but he had found nothing. Lin Fengting was undoubtedly a person who abided by the rules. After his hidden whereabouts were exposed by Wang Xingxiao, he didn't hide anymore on Mount Dibbing. After making sure that he couldn't find the clue of that thing, Wang Xingxiao's mind gradually shifted from him to the internal purge. 3 days ago, Xianming, who controlled all the intelligence organizations of the Wang family of Beihai, officially accepted most of the elites of Jiangnan society in Beihai. Wang Xingxiao personally transferred Lu Shuanghua, the person in charge of Jiangnan society, to Beihai. A large number of intelligence experts dug deep inside Beihai, looking for all the clues. 2 days ago, Wang Xingxiao decided to tentatively attack 2 suspicious places in Beihai. One of the 2 places was empty. The other one, on the other hand, met with fierce resistance. Several swordsmen from East Island broke through the encirclement, and dozens of elites of the Beihai Corps were wounded. The fight was fierce and short. The swordsmen of East Island left the hiding place immediately and destroyed all the subsequent clues. The battle ended very quickly. However, this was the first battle that the major powers had clashed with the North Sea Legion after infiltrating the North Sea. After a long period of oppression and scheming, the first sparks of war had already begun to erupt in the increasingly turbulent North Sea. It was precisely because of this short war that it officially confirmed that several superpowers were indeed lurking in Beihai and plotting against Mount Dibbing. The previous speculation had evidence in an instant, which meant that everything was on the right track. Wang Xingxiao threw in a massive amount of resources without hesitation. Xingzhou, Floating Island, Kanglan, Empress, Autumn Water, Tongtian, Liuli. The 7 cities and the entire province were like an inescapable net, trapping the elites of the major factions. All the forces in the North Sea were searching for them. When Lu Shuanghua hurried to the stage of formidable person, Wang Xingxiao had just finished a night of meditation and was about to invite Lin Fengting to breakfast. Seeing the enchantress coming up with the intelligence giant, he was slightly stunned and said slowly, "Uncle Lu, what's the matter?" "Patriarch." Lu Shuanghua nodded. His pace was fast, but his voice and expression were still calm. "I have some important discoveries here, and the target is more important. I need your approval before I start." "Target?" Wang Xingxiao's pupils contracted. At this stage, the task of Xianming and Lu Shuanghua was to investigate some places where the enemy might be lurking. But Lu Shuanghua's words directly located the target. The target and the place were 2 completely different things. "Go ahead." Wang Xingxiao narrowed his eyes and said quietly. "Huangfu Renjia of the Huangfu family." Lu Shuanghua's tone was calm. "I can be sure that he has a very close relationship with Wang Xiaoyao. The relevant evidence is all here. The most important evidence is that, in our surveillance, my people accidentally found that Huangfu Renjia had contact with an intelligence officer of Jifeng Sword Training School. Coincidentally, this intelligence officer had participated in some activities in Zhongzhou State. His identity was secretly recorded by us." He handed a document in his hand to Wang Xingxiao. Wang Xingxiao lowered his head and quickly glanced through it. The information was all about some matters and data, including the transfer of some resources. There were also some money transfers and some photos. All of these showed that Huangfu Renjia and Wang Xiaoyao had a close relationship. And Huangfu Renjia's contact with the intelligence officer of Jifeng Sword Training School was the most direct evidence. Wang Xingxiao's expression was still calm, but his eyes were a little gloomy. Huangfu Renjia. He was the number 2 figure in the intelligence system of the Huangfu family. This identity was nothing in the whole North Sea, but inside the Huangfu family, he was one of the high-level core. This meant that Wang Xiaoyao had reached into the 7 sword-holding families a long time ago. Huangfu Renjia was the first one. Would there be a second one? Or even a 100th one? How much do you know about the situation? Wang Xingxiao asked slowly. At present, we only have this clue. His identity is a bit special. He is a core member of the sword-holding family, so we can't act rashly. But if we can control him, we can at least take down 1/3 of the latent forces in Qiushui City. This can even be said to be our biggest harvest since the search. I'll take people to Qiushui City, ask the Huangfu family for him, catch him, and kill him. The enchantress's voice was cold and cruel. Lu Shuanghua and Wang Xingxiao shook their heads at the same time. Wang Xingxiao noticed the other party's movement, suppressed his inner emotions, and said with a smile, "Uncle Lu, what do you think? If you have anything to say, just say it. You are my father's friend and my elder, so you don't have to worry about anything." Lu Shuanghua raised her head and took a deep look at Wang Xingxiao. After a moment of hesitation, she said, "These places may not necessarily exist in isolation. If Wang Xiaoyao runs a network inside Beihai, then Huangfu Renjie should be a relatively important figure. This person should even play a very important role in helping several superpowers lurk. I suggest we monitor him secretly first, and then slowly. There's no time." Wang Xingxiao shook his head. "Of course, this is the best way, but Zhongzhou State may not give us too much time. Uncle Lu, what I need is to deter the major forces and alert them. First, we need to destroy some of their forces and disrupt their plans. Huangfu Renjie is a very suitable candidate. But he is a member of the Huangfu family." Lu Shuanghua lowered his head, his eyes flashing, and said in a low voice, "Patriarch, are you sure that the 7 sword-holding families are on our side?" Chapter 820. To this day, would the 7 families still stand on Wang Xingxiao's side? This question was very heart-wrenching, but it was also very realistic. The significance of the existence of the sword-holding families was to help Mount Dibing stabilize the situation in Beihai. It was necessary to unite against foreign enemies. But the biggest problem facing Mount Dibing now was not foreign aggression, but internal worries. It was Wang Xiaoyao and Wang Qinglei. Wang Xiaoyao was now an expert of the invincible realm. After Dijiang was expelled and Wang Tianzong disappeared, he was now the only expert of the invincible realm in the Wang family of Beihai. He was only in his 30s this year, and his future was also worth looking forward to. Moreover, he also controlled tens of thousands of elite troops of the Beihai Corps and Snow Country, and even dominated the dark world of Snow Country today. Needless to say, Wang Qinglei, as a person who was determined to rush to the number 1 position in 6 years, did not need to prove any strength at all. The two together might not be able to overthrow Wang Tianzong. But Wang Tianzong was now missing. Objectively speaking, the appearance of Wang Xiaoyao and Wang Qinglei had the capital to shake the minds of many people. How would the 7 sword-holding families choose? Huangfu Renjie was one of the high-level members of the Huangfu family. If he could be roped in by Wang Xiaoyao, would other people in the Huangfu family be roped in by Wang Xiaoyao? And how many people in other families had Wang Xiaoyao roped in? Wang Xingxiao was silent. The enchantress trembled slightly for a moment. Thinking of a possibility, she suddenly shuddered, and then her whole body exuded an even colder killing intent. Nurturing a tiger invites disaster. At this time, no one could be sure what Wang Xiaoyao, who had been unguarded for so many years, had done in secret, and what a terrifying team he had cultivated. Although this possibility was very small, no one could deny that Wang Xiaoyao might have roped in a part of the power that was enough to compete with Mount Dibing. Make an appointment with the patriarch of the Huangfu family for me. Wang Xingxiao was silent for a long time, and then said faintly, "I will wait for him for lunch today." Patriarch. Lu Shuanghua wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. "It's okay." Wang Xingxiao smiled and said, "The patriarchs of the 7 sword-holding families can still be trusted at this stage. My father has not died yet. Even if some people don't know the situation, these patriarchs should always know that not all gambles can be won." Lu Shuanghua hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I'll arrange it right away." Wang Xingxiao nodded, looked at him, smiled, and said softly, "The work efficiency of Jiangnan Road is good. Huangfu Renjie needs to be taken care of. As for the specific measures, I will discuss it with clan leader Huangfu. I'll let you know after we talk." "All right." Lu Shuanghua agreed without hesitation. "Are there enough people?" "If it's not enough, I can send you more people." Wang Xingxiao casually asked. I'm still too busy for the time being. However, regarding the matters of the battle, I'll need the patriarch's help. Lu Shuanghua said. Wang Xingxiao thought for a moment and said, I'll arrange for someone to fight. In addition, I'll adjust your authority later. North of Kanglan, the authority of the members of Jiangnan society will be raised by 1 level. He reached out and pressed his hand on Lu Shuanghua's shoulder. He leaned forward slightly and said with a serious look in his eyes, no matter what, dig them out. Lu Shuanghua took a deep breath and nodded solemnly. Wang Xingxiao still wanted to say something, but his phone suddenly rang. He took out his phone and answered it. A respectful voice sounded on the phone, Your Highness, Mr. Lin said he's leaving. Wang Xingxiao was stunned and said, I'll be there right away. Lin Fengting had been here for 3 days without finding anything. According to his character, he naturally wouldn't stay long. Clan leader, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to Qiushui. I'll go with Huangfu Renjie myself. Lu Shuanghua said. Okay. Wang Xingxiao walked down the stage, a formidable person with him, and shook hands with him. Thank you. Lu Shuanghua said no more. He came and left in a hurry. Wang Xingxiao didn't turn around until his figure completely disappeared and walked to Lin Fengting's palace. Lin Fengting didn't have any luggage, so he didn't need to pack anything. When Wang Xingxiao walked into the palace, he was sitting on the sofa, quietly drinking tea alone. Seeing Wang Xingxiao come in, he nodded and said gently, Sorry to disturb you these days. Uncle, you're welcome. Wang Xingxiao smiled and asked knowingly, Uncle, did you find anything? No. Lin Fengting said with a faint smile, I tried to find it again, but it obviously didn't want to see me. Wang Xingxiao thought that it didn't have the mood to talk to him now, but he shook his head and said, I'll arrange a car to send you down the mountain. Lin Fengting put down the teacup, got up and walked out of the door. Wang Xingxiao followed him silently. How did you find me that day? Lin Fengting suddenly asked, Did it tell you? Wang Xingxiao shook his head and said nothing. Shaking his head meant many things. So did silence. So Lin Fengting didn't understand. He just suddenly laughed. If I hide myself again, can you still find me? Wang Xingxiao's expression didn't change. He said flatly, Uncle, why don't you have a try? Because this is Mount Dibbing. Lin Fengting said softly. His tone was a little emotional. Then let's thank each other. Wang Xingxiao said slowly. This sentence was a little inexplicable. But Lin Fengting could understand. He nodded. What's your next plan? Wang Xingxiao said with a smile, Where are you going to have fun? Let's take a look in Beihai. Lin Fengting said, Since I'm here, I can't come here in vain. I'll take another look at the old scenery, and then walk around Zhongzhou State. When it's time, I'll go to the desert and then go home. Lin Fengting was a little absent-minded and shook his head. I'm in my 50s. If I walk around the world again, I'll leave. Wang Xingxiao didn't say anything about this. I know what you're suspecting, but your suspicion is unnecessary. I really didn't find that thing in the Lin clan, so I wanted to come and have a look. But since you don't agree, then forget it. Lin Fengting continued. Uncle, you can go home and look for it slowly. You'll find it, Wang Xingxiao said. Lin Fengting shook his head with a smile. Suddenly, he reached out and rubbed Wang Xingxiao's hair. You have your worries, and I have mine. Forget it, I don't care. I won't see you. Wang Xingxiao laughed. Carefree is the greatest freedom. Lin Fengting nodded. A black car appeared in the distance. Before the car arrived, he took a deep look at Wang Xingxiao and said slowly, I don't know if I'm overthinking it. You gave the coldness of 9 states to Tianlan. I'm afraid you didn't have good intentions from the beginning, did you? Are you plotting against Xianyuan Feng and the 13th floor? Wang Xingxiao's eyes were calm. He said quietly, It was Tianlan's idea to give me the coldness of 9 states. This was our deal, and I fulfilled the contract. What he said was the truth. It sounded like it. In fact, he didn't say anything when he thought about it carefully. It was a complete nonsense. Lin Fengting smiled. It sounds like it's true. I also hope that it's that simple. But if it's really like what I said. The car stopped beside him. He paused and said slowly, I don't agree with this. If there is such a day, Tianlan and I will wait for you in Carefree Villa, or you will wait for us on Mount Dibbing. Chapter 8:21. It was early autumn again. It was the rain of early autumn again. The slightly messy rain fell on the streets and alleys of the city, falling on the neon lights lit in the evening, bringing a dense mist. The rain was lazy and casual. The traffic was moving and stopping at the red light, leisurely and quiet. Downstairs, the people who got off work held umbrellas and walked on the rain-soaked stone road, laughing and talking. Young couples walked hand in hand to the nearby snack street, and colleagues discussed what movies to watch after dinner. In front of the small supermarket across the street, the owner of the supermarket held a cigarette and chatted casually with his neighbors in the rain. The students who had just finished school ran across the sidewalk laughing and getting farther and farther away. Qingzhou had always been a leisurely and almost undisciplined city. The extremely slow pace of life allowed everyone living here to integrate into the city, unlike Yuzhou or Huading. There were tens of millions of people in the vast sea of people, and most of them were passers-by in the city. Simple, leisurely, contented, and carefree. After a day's work, before leaving, she always liked to stand in front of the window and look at the scenery outside. Every time she saw it, she would always think of what her father had said to her and her brother. Being carefree was the greatest freedom. She didn't understand it back then, and she still didn't understand it now. But she gradually fell in love with the current life, the current city, and the current job. It was raining outside the window. Cheerful footsteps rang in the corridor outside the office. She was in a good mood. After drinking the coffee in the cup, she rinsed the coffee cup and was cleaning up the office when there was a knock on the door. She said, "Come in a soft and pleasant voice. Several young girls who had just started working came in with a smile. "Manager, do you have time in the evening? My relative opened a restaurant. It's very clean and tastes good. I'd like to invite you to have a try." The leading girl said with a chuckle, and her eyes were very intimate. She smiled apologetically and shook her head. "Not today." "Well, where's the restaurant?" "Tomorrow is the weekend. Let's go at noon. How about I treat you?" "I see. Well, I wanted to invite you to watch a movie with me. There's a new movie that's very good recently." The girl was a little regretful. They liked this manager very much. She was very beautiful, not just any kind of beauty, but the kind of beauty that even people of the same sex couldn't have the slightest bit of jealousy. Such beauty didn't have any aggressiveness. Gentle, generous, and demure, everyone in the company liked this easygoing administrative manager. Compared with the timid male colleagues, most of the women in the company liked to chat with her. Some girls who had just graduated from school in the same department even unconsciously imitated her every word and action. "Maybe next time. I really have something this time." She smiled gently and picked up the small lady's handbag on the table. A low-end lady's handbag that cost 100 or 200 yuan looked a little old, but in her hands, it didn't look cheap at all. "All right." The girls pouted and then laughed. "Manager, we're leaving. Let's watch a movie together next time." "What movie?" A voice came from outside the office. She was stunned, then smiled and said, "President He." The girls lowered their voices. "Hello, President He." Dressed in a business suit with her long hair tied up, He Shui walked in and smiled. "Are there any good movies recently?" Next during the shift, the president of the Susui group looked much softer, but facing the boss, the girls in the administrative department were still a little nervous. "Ah, there's one. It's a sci-fi movie. It's very good." He Shui nodded and didn't say anything else. The girls stuck out their tongues, secretly waved at the manager in the office, and rushed out. Look, you scared them all. Standing in the office, she tilted her head and chuckled. What? I'm very approachable today, okay? He frowned and waved his hand. When he was with her, she seemed a lot younger. She smiled and glanced at the thing in He hand. It was a very delicate small gift box. This is? She slightly raised her eyebrows. A gift. He smiled and said, a gift for Tide. Thank you. She smiled and didn't say anything. The friendship between them had been slowly cultivated over a year. At first, she was just an ordinary clerk, and he was the president. When she first came to Susui for an interview, it was He who accompanied her through all the procedures. On the first day of work, it was He who brought her to the company. Then, she was transferred to the administrative department, deputy manager, and they became friends, or even best friends. She once asked He why he treated her so well. And He answer was absolutely convincing. Because of her looks. She often thought that the gradual recovery of her mood might be mostly because of Tide, and a small part of it might be because of this best friend in front of her, who was like a sister and a little sister at the same time. She reached out to take the gift. However, He hid the gift behind his back. No, this isn't a gift for you. This is for little Tide. Gifts have to be given personally to show sincerity. Let's go freeload. I want to go to your house to freeload. She glared at him and waved the small bag in her hand. Then let's go. What do you want for dinner? I have food in my car. Let's go in my car. I won't go back tonight. He followed beside her, his voice very lively because of the joy. She let out a nonchalant "Hmm." It's still the same thing as last time. The two of them got into He car. He started the car and said with a smile, Miss Li Mutong, I'm once again inviting you to move to a new house. It's great that you move in with us. My house is very big, and my parents are very welcoming of you. You can go to work during the day, and little Tide can be left at home. There will be someone to take care of her. I have a big family, and I don't need a pair of chopsticks. No need. Li Mutong shook her head. It's too troublesome. Besides, I really like where I live now. Although it's a little small, it's very comfortable. What about little Tide? He glanced at her. I'm going to hire an aunt. Li Mutong smiled. There was a warm and dazzling glow on her young and beautiful face. An aunt can take care of little Tide during the day. I've installed a surveillance camera. She's a very good person, and she treats little Tide very well. I'm very relieved. I'm really defeated by you. How can an outsider take care of his own people better than an outsider? Li Mutong still shook her head and insisted. An aunt is a professional. He sighed and stopped the topic. There was a moment of silence in the car. Oh right. He suddenly said, do you have any plans for the National Day holiday? Li Mutong thought for a moment. I'll just stay at home and accompany Tide. Isn't that good? What era are we in? He shook his head. We should go out for a walk. We're in Zhejiang, right? I wanted to go a few years ago, but I didn't have the chance. Usually, when I visit my clients, I'm always in a hurry, so I haven't had the chance to have a good look. Let's go together. Li Mutong shook her head, and her eyes were in a trance. She said absent-mindedly, I still like Qingzhou. Besides, Tide is still young. It's not suitable for her to go out. He thought about it seriously and said softly, that's true. Children are troublesome, but they are also very cute. Sometimes, I envy you, but, she shook her head. Let me be little Tide's godmother. You don't even have a child yourself. Li Mutong laughed. What's wrong with that? He shook her head, and her face dimmed for a moment. She was already 34 years old this year. She had a failed marriage, but she did not have a child. She used to think that she did not like children, but since she met Little Tide, she had changed her mind unconsciously. The black Audi shuttled through the autumn rain, and finally drove into an ordinary residential area in Qingzhou. He Yishui and Li Mutong were busy moving the food from the trunk into the car. In the house that was less than 100 square meters, a kind-looking aunt who looked about 50 years old was slowly walking in the living room with a small baby in her arms. When she saw Li Mutong, she smiled and nodded. Tide just woke up from wetting the bed. She didn't have time to wash up. Let's put her to sleep first. Let me do it. Li Mutong changed her clothes, washed her hands, and carefully held the baby in her arms. The little baby opened his eyes and wrapped one of his fingers. When he saw his mother, he grinned. At this moment, Li Mutong's heart seemed to have completely melted, and she looked even more gentle. She took out the baby's finger, unbuttoned her pajamas with one hand, and fed the baby naturally. He Yishui stayed by Li Mutong's side, and carefully touched the baby's face with her finger. She said softly, "So beautiful. When she grows up, she will definitely be as charming as you." Li Mutong rolled her eyes at He Yishui, and did not say anything. He Yishui looked at the scene quietly, and her eyes were a little complicated. When she first interviewed Li Mutong, she had asked her if she had a boyfriend, and if she was married. Li Mutong said that she was not married, and she did not have a boyfriend. She thought that she was pregnant at that time, but she did not know it. The baby was born about 3 months ago. The girl's name was Li Chaoshi. He Yishui also asked her who the father of the baby was, but she did not get an answer. Every time she mentioned the father, Li Mutong would remain silent. At that time, her red lips would be tightly pursed, and she looked a little stubborn, a little wronged, a little confused, but most of all, she was strong. She did not mention her family, and she did not mention the father of the baby. He Yishui had many guesses. Maybe she had a complete fallout with her family because of that bastard man? Or that bastard man dumped Li Mutong and found someone else? But what kind of man would abandon a girl like Li Mutong? Was he blind? Was he her university classmate? Or was Li Mutong cheated? There was no answer. Because she had never said anything. He Yishui looked at her best friend who was lowering her head to feed the baby. She gritted her teeth, and thought to herself, "Don't let me know who the father of that bastard man is, or I will teach him a lesson." Chapter 8:22. It was snowing in Eastern Europe. The night was long, and it was snowing heavily. Jianghu liked rain and didn't like snow. It could even be said that he hated snowflakes very much. He didn't like the snow covering the sky and the earth, the cold, and the darkness. Coincidentally, the things he didn't like were all in Eastern Europe. And he was in Eastern Europe now. Autumn gradually passed, and Reki City had entered the everlasting night. The darkness existed for 24 hours, accompanied by snowflakes and icy wind. It was bone-chilling. Therefore, Jianghu rarely left the station of the Snowdance Corps. But once he left, he often had to walk for a long time. He was still the vice-marshal of the Snowdance Corps. After Li Tianlan resigned from the rank of marshal and the position of commander of the Snowdance Corps, he could be said to be the nominal supreme leader here. The parliament of Zhongzhou state had secretly discussed the Snowdance Corps many times. Someone even proposed to let Jianghu directly become the commander of the Snowdance Corps and grant him the rank of marshal. However, Dongqing Wudi had been delaying it. Every time, he studied it. After nearly 2 years, he still didn't give a clear result. During this period, some of the middle and high-level officers of the Snowdance Corps had been slightly adjusted. Although it didn't affect the overall situation, the officers who were transferred there were basically figures who could help Jianghu stabilize his position in the Corps. Obviously, more than one giant hoped that Jianghu could do something in Eastern Europe and the Snowdance Corps. But for nearly 2 years, Jianghu really did nothing. He stayed in the Snowdance Corps as if he didn't exist at all. He didn't express any opinions at the Corps meeting. Every meeting, he drank a cup of tea until the end of the meeting. Silence was golden. He didn't intervene in the specific affairs of Reki City or even the 5 countries in Eastern Europe. Since the chaos in Eastern Europe, for nearly 2 years, the relationship between the giants of the giant group and the 5 countries in Eastern Europe had become closer. With the full cooperation of the Flourishing Age Fund, Emperor Dong's palace had completed the shareholding of the giants of the 5 countries in Eastern Europe during this period. Xianyuan City was developing rapidly, and Emperor Dong's palace had begun to take root here quickly. Almost every day, a large amount of money gathered toward Emperor Dong's palace. Jiang Shangyu had been watching silently, keeping his composure and never expressing any opinions. Within the core, as Jiang Shangyu's secretary, Lu Dongyang increasingly couldn't understand what Jiang Shangyu was doing. He could be said to be the closest person to Jiang Shangyu in the entire core. But after getting along with him for more than a year, he had never understood what Jiang Shangyu was thinking. He wasn't pretending. He really didn't care about everything in Eastern Europe, or rather, he didn't care about it at all. Scramble for power? Attack Li Tianlan's team? Become the parliament's bargaining chip in exchange for more support? He really didn't think about it, or rather, he didn't care. Every once in a while, Jiang Shangyu would leave the army station. Asking for leave was symbolic. Every time Dongqing Wudi approved the documents for leave, it was as timely as sending a text message. Jiang Shangyu really hated the cold and night here, so every time he left, he would look better after coming back. As a major officer of Zhongzhou State, after Lu Dongyang came to the Snowdance Corps, he had no other feeling of being close to a big shot except for the promotion of his military rank. As the secretary of the vice-marshal of the Snowdance Corps, what he did most on weekdays was to take care of Jiang Shangyu's food and drink. Internal affairs of the army? The officers of the legion controlled by Dongqing Wudi and Li Tianlan did not take Jiang Shangyu seriously. Jiang Shangyu didn't take them seriously. Therefore, Lu Dongyang, who was stuck in the middle, became more and more confused. Intensive knocking sounds kept ringing in the office of the vice-marshal of the Snowdance Corps. When Lu Dongyang walked into the conference room with the documents, Jiang Shangyu was staring intently at the screen in front of him, which was originally used for the meeting, and the controller in his hand was clicking. The little man on the screen killed one monster after another with sharp movements. His movements were smooth and pleasing to the eye. Jiang Shangyu was humming happily and playing games. He didn't notice that there was one more person in the office. General. Lu Dongyang felt a little uncomfortable. Every time he saw his immediate boss abandon himself, he felt even more uncomfortable. Ah, Dongyang is here. Let's do it. There's a controller next to him. Let's play together. Let me tell you, I defeated the boss of the last level. I studied it all night last night. Hee, it was comfortable. Watch me perform this level. F***CK. Jiang Shangyu's complacent smile suddenly changed, and he screamed. Lu Dongyang turned his head numbly and glanced at it. The colorful screen had become black and white. The fierce and domineering character in the game had been lying on the ground. Lu Dongyang shook his head and handed over the document in his hand. General, this is the document from the parliament. Take a look. Oh, okay. Jiang Shangyu responded, took the document, and put it aside. The next moment, he picked up a guide and muttered, "What kind of skill is it? It's so powerful. I almost have divine equipment, but I was still killed in seconds." General. The corner of Lu Dongyang's mouth twitched, and he emphasized, "This is a document from the Parliament of Zhongzhou State." Nonsense. Jiang Shangyu held the guide in his hand. This is obviously a past secret book. Lu Dongyang took a deep breath and said softly, "The Parliament asks you to return to Yuzhou to report on your work and discuss the future allocation of officers of the Snowdance Corps." Reset. Jiang Shangyu paused while flipping through the secret book and narrowed his eyes. Lu Dongyang's eyes flashed with excitement. "General, I think our chance has come." "Yes." Jiang Shangyu nodded casually. "Different from you, I think we're going to die." Lu Dongyang's face changed, and he was a little surprised and doubtful. General, it's been less than 2 years, and you can't hold back? Jiang Shangyu shook his head. The parliament is powerful, but no matter what, it can't go too far. Isn't Beihai busy enough? Do you want to get Emperor Dong's palace involved again? He turned off the game, turned on the TV, and adjusted the playback of the news broadcast of Jianghu State. On the news, on different occasions, Li Huaqing and Chen Fangqing spoke at the same time, in unison, emphasizing the importance of unity and the local parliament to maintain a high degree of consistency with the parliament of Jianghu State. Their words were full of mystery. Jiang Shangyu pointed to the TV. Look at their faces. Lu Dongyang was a little stunned. Move against Beihai. In the beginning, it was just moving against Beihai. Now the spearhead has pointed directly at Mount Dibing. Beihai is the bottom line of the Wang family of Beihai, and Mount Dibing is their lifeline. But it's nothing. Jianghu State has the right to do so. What about here? Let me go back to Yuzhou to report on my work and study personnel. What is this place? The reason why Xianyuan City can develop so fast in Tiannan is that the capital here is crucial, or even the most important thing. This is Li Tianlan's lifeline. I really can't figure it out. They have one foot on the bottom line of Beihai and the other on Li Tianlan. Do they really think they can trample these two forces to death? If they can't be trampled to death, the next step is to rebound. He pointed to the TV screen. These two, I can only see greed on their faces. I can be sure that at least one of them has a psychological problem. On the surface, the parliament occupies the highest point of the overall interests of Jianghu State. But Li Tianlan, Mount Dibing, the Southeast Group, and the Giant Group, are they really weaker than the Academy and the Prince Group? Li Tianlan can destroy the Qi family for Xianyuan City. Are they not sober enough to instigate me to stand out? He looked at the news on the screen and tooted. Who the hell is it? Do they think I have a long life? Dongyang. He glanced at the secretary beside him and smiled. You've worked hard during this period, but you should work harder next. He touched his face. In the cold air, his face was abnormally pale. I'm not feeling well. Send a document to the army headquarters in my name. I'll apply for a vacation. It'll take about 2 years. That's all. Chapter 823. The Army Ministry of Yuzhou. In the office of the executive minister, Dongqing Wudi frowned slightly. He looked thoughtfully at the facts on the table and then at Jiang Shangyu on the screen in front of him. His eyes were a little playful. Jiang Shangyu sat quietly on the sofa and looked straight into Dongqing Wudi's eyes with a smile. At this moment, he was not as decadent and happy as when he played games, nor was he as gentle and casual as when he was at the army meeting. He just smiled quietly. There was nothing in his smile, but it seemed to contain everything. Dongqing Wudi couldn't tell what he was thinking at all. Unfathomable. Although he was reluctant to use this word to describe a young man, this was the feeling Jiang Shangyu gave him at this moment. This feeling was subtle. Dongqing Wudi felt a little familiar. It was just like when he saw Qin Weibai for the first time. Deep. Qin Weibai's eyes were deep, cold, and indifferent. She was high and mighty, but it also contained deep affection and persistence like the surging waves. Jiang Shangyu, on the other hand, was only deep, like an abyss, dark, and bottomless. Dongqing Wudi took a light breath and knocked on the facts on the table. He said in a deep voice, Vice Marshal Jiang, are you going to resign? No, I'm just asking for a vacation. Jiang Shangyu said calmly, with a very proper and polite posture, I hope the minister can approve it. 2 years of vacation? Dongqing Wudi asked again. Of course, he had to approve it. In fact, Jiang Shangyu's appointment as the vice marshal of the Snowdance Corps had always been a thorn in the heart of the Giant Group. Today's Giant Group was going all out to absorb the blood of the 5 Eastern European countries. This was the country that Li Tianlan had fought for. The huge interests in it were also the greatest confidence for Dongqing Wudi to promote Li Tianlan and stabilize his position within the giant group. But there was Jianghu in the 5 Eastern European countries. Dongqing Wudi couldn't tolerate it at all, but there was no good way for the time being. Fortunately, Jianghu was very sensible and almost never intervened in the food of the army. But even so, Dongqing Wudi still could not rest assured. Li Tianlan had decided to cooperate with the Wang family of Beihai. In today's Jianghu state, if he really wanted to find a person who could barely balance Li Tianlan, Jianghu was undoubtedly the only candidate. Dongqing Wudi could fully imagine what the parliament would do when Li Tianlan completely joined forces with the Wang family of Beihai. Compared with attacking Xianyuan city, it was undoubtedly more effective to directly attack the 5 countries in Eastern Europe. And at that time, Jianghu would also become the most heavyweight chess piece, even within the parliament of Jianghu state. There were already rumors that Jianghu would be promoted to Marshal of Jianghu state as an exception. It was impossible that Jianghu didn't know this. But at such a critical moment, Jianghu actually wanted to take a vacation. What was the difference between taking 2 years of leave and resigning? Dongqing Wudi could almost see the disappointed faces of Li Huacheng and Chen Fangqing. But for Dongqing Wudi, this was undoubtedly the most satisfactory result. He will certainly approve it. But he had to ask for the reason. Now Jianghu was a lieutenant general of Jianghu state. Even if he did not serve in the Snowdance Corps, he was still a lieutenant general of Jianghu state. The army headquarters must give such a person the necessary care. Because of my health. Jianghu nodded and whispered, I've always been in poor health, and the climate in Eastern Europe is too bad. It's not suitable for me to cultivate. You should understand. Dongqing Wudi narrowed his eyes. I need a report. Why are you in poor health? If he was injured, where did he get injured? I understand. Jianghu laughed. This sentence was very interesting. It didn't matter why he was in poor health or where he got injured. Maybe the army headquarters would investigate it in the future, but at this stage, it didn't matter. What mattered was that Dongqing Wudi needed a report. The content of the report didn't matter. As long as Dongqing Wudi believed it. At this time, even if Jianghu wrote in the report that his injury was caused by self-mutilation, Dongqing Wudi could believe it. The detailed report will be sent to Yuzhou by tonight. Jianghu said slowly. Dongqing Wudi nodded and said, my secretary, Comrade Dongyang, is very good. Minister, I haven't been in the Snowdance Corps for a long time, but there are always a few people. I find that they are buried. They are completely suitable for a higher position and are qualified to take on more responsibilities. Jianghu suddenly said. Dongqing Wudi was stunned. He sat in the chair and didn't speak. Jianghu. Was he going to take a step back? Dongqing Wudi's eyes flickered. There was no doubt that the list Jianghu said next was the condition for him to take a step back. 2 years of leave. This was almost equivalent to resignation in disguise. He gave up the position of Vice Marshal of the Snowdance Corps in exchange for the promotion of a group of people. It could be foreseen that these people would also be in the Snowdance Corps for a long time. When they left the Snowdance Corps, their military ranks would definitely be raised by 1 level. At that time, these people would be Jianghu's team. Farsighted? Dongqing Wudi preferred to regard this kind of plan as calmness. Jianghu was really calm. Wang Xingxiao became the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai and played with Jianghu state. Li Tianlan became the palace lord of Emperor Dong's palace and occupied Tiannan. As a figure who was almost as famous as them, Jianghu's mentality was not unbalanced at all. He just made his own plan with peace of mind. He was not shocked by honor or disgrace, and calmly built his own force. 3,000 realms? Dongqing Wudi suddenly asked. Jianghu was stunned. His eyes were in a trance for a moment, and he laughed. I'm looking forward to it. Dongqing Wudi nodded. The report needs to be postponed for a few days. Jianghu said, He gave up the position of vice marshal of the Snowdance Corps, and Dongqing Wudi had to hold it in his hands. Even the position of commander of the Snowdance Corps, he had to take it in one go. These days were the time for Dongqing Wudi to operate in secret, and it was also the time for Jiang Shangyu to build his own team. The conflict between the Wang family of Beihai and Zhongzhou state would only become more and more intense. For now, there was no possibility of reconciliation between the two sides for at least a year. Jiang Shangyu could do a lot of things during this period of time. Dongqing Wudi suddenly felt a little emotional. Standing in his position, he had seen too many young talents, such as Li Tianlan, Wang Xingxiao, and many, many people. But Jiang Shangyu seemed to be the most sober one. He was also the one who knew how to compromise and give in the most. Many people might not understand a truth. Being strong and giving in were actually just means and choices. The most important thing was how much benefit could be gained behind this choice. Even Dongqing Wudi himself was not sure at the moment when he turned off the video. With the conclusion of this deal, in the future, the so-called 3,000 realms would become the 7th group of Zhongzhou state. He stood in the office and thought for a long time before he grabbed the phone and dialed. Minister. Bai Qianzhao quickly answered the phone and said in a serious tone. Dongqing Wudi hummed and asked, "Do you want to move?" Move? Bai Qianzhao, who was trying his best to take the position of Secretary General of the Army Headquarters and attack the status of a Member of Parliament, was a little stunned. Where to? Dongqing Wudi was silent for a while and said, Eastern Europe. Bai Qianzhao was stunned for a long time before he shook his head. I'm not suitable. Dongqing Wudi smiled and said slowly, how about third brother? Chapter 8:24. On the phone, Bai Qianzhao was silent for a long time. The third brother. He remembered this person, but he almost forgot him most of the time. At least in the original plan, the third brother mentioned by Dongqing Wudi could not take a sensitive position in the near future, or even stand in a dazzling position in his life. But Bai Qianzhao would not deny his ability. He is not suitable. Bai Qianzhao hesitated and said slowly, word by word, in a solemn tone. Of course I know. Dongqing Wudi rubbed his eyebrows. But he is the best candidate. Bai Qianzhao was silent again. After Li Tianlan, the commander of the Snowdance Corps should no longer be a marshal, but there was no doubt that he was a general. The Dongqing clan was known as the first wealthy family in the military of Zhongzhou state. More than one person was qualified and capable to be promoted to general. But similarly, more than one person in the Prince group, the academics, and even the North group was able to be promoted to general and control the Snowdance Corps. This position was the foundation of Li Tianlan and an important support for him to control the giant group in the future. Dongqing Wudi had to find a way to get it. In such a situation, the person recommended must be a heavyweight. It couldn't be an ordinary lieutenant general. It couldn't be an ordinary general. Such a candidate must be so strong that as long as Dongqing Wudi proposed it, neither the Prince group nor the academics could object, and they had no reason to object. They would definitely pass it without any suspense. Such a person needed not only qualifications, but also almost absolute force, as well as unquestionable prestige and military exploits. At present, the academics and the Prince group did not have such a person. Even if there was, it was impossible for them to leave their current position. But the giant group had one. No one else? Bai Qianzhao asked. What are you thinking about? Dongqing Wudi asked lightly. I know what it means. Bai Qianzhao was a little unhappy. It doesn't matter if I advance or retreat. Even if I can't go further, it will not be a problem to keep my current position. I haven't thought about it. The so-called third brother was Bai Qianzhao's younger brother. If there was no Li Tianlan, he could almost be regarded as the first master in the giant group. If he joined the Snowdance Corps, once his position and identity were exposed, the possibility of Bai Qianzhao becoming the Secretary General and entering the parliament would be greatly reduced. However, that was not what Bai Qianzhao was thinking about. Once the identity of third brother was exposed, the impact would be enough to make many people question the rules that some people had insisted on for many years. It would even cause a new round of impact on the giant group. The impact would be too great. I think it's more useful for third brother to stay in his current position. Bai Qingzhao said, but we can communicate with him. I know that, but I don't have a choice. I can't move. Third brother can't move. Who will go? This matter is too sensitive, and the longer it drags on, the more trouble there will be. I don't want to compete with them again. It's meaningless. There are too many times when we have to go against each other. Now, every council meeting has almost become a battlefield. It's meaningless. Dongxing Wudi said impatiently. Bai Qingzhao thought for a while and said, there is another suitable candidate. Dongxing Wudi raised his eyebrows. Eagle King of the Li family. Bai Qingzhao smiled. Dongxing Wudi's eyes flickered thoughtfully. Eagle King of the Li family was now the commander of the garrison of Xianyuan City. More than 20 years ago, when the Li family was at its peak, he was the commander of the Heavenly Eagle Force in Jianghu State, the top officer at the lieutenant general level. Tianlan doesn't have any trust crisis in him. His ability is beyond doubt. I've checked the information. At that time, the Heavenly Eagle Force was under the dual management of the Army Headquarters and Zhuanyuantai. The combat environment and the arrangement of military types are somewhat similar to that of the Snowdance Corps. Eagle King himself is also a half-step invincible realm expert. If he goes there, he is more suitable than third brother. Bai Qingzhao said unhurriedly. Dongxing Wudi took a deep breath and said attentively, Eagle King is good, but I'm afraid that the council won't approve it. He just wanted stability now. He wanted a strong figure who would not be opposed as long as he took out his position. From the point of view of the appointment, third brother was undoubtedly the most stable. There would be no problem with him. He would definitely approve the appointment 100% or even 120%. And Eagle King, what are you afraid of? Bai Qingzhao sneered. Tianlan is still in prison, and he hasn't made it clear that he wants to cooperate with the Wang family of Beihai. Eastern Europe is Tianlan's territory. Now that Eagle King is going there, why should they object? Dongxing Wudi nodded and then shook his head. Appointing Eagle King as the commander of the Snowdance Corps, there was at least a 70% to 80% chance of success. The most important point was that Li Tianlan had not made a clear statement. If Li Huaqing objected, it would only push Li Tianlan to the Wang family of Beihai. So if he took out Eagle King, he could indirectly verify the other party's attitude? Was it a favor at no cost? Or was it a suppression to the end? If it doesn't work, there are still the 5 Eastern European countries. No matter how vassal they are only nominally allies of Jianghu State. The Snowdance Corps is equivalent to a garrison. It won't be a problem to go through the channels of the 5 Eastern European countries to put some pressure on Jianghu State. Dongxing Wudi thought about it and finally nodded. We can try. I think Eagle King is fine. He is getting stronger with age. It's not a big problem for him to stand up to Jiang Shanyu. Bai Qingzhao said with a smile. Dongxing Wudi smiled. Don't worry about Jiang Shanyu. I just talked to him on the phone. He said that he was in poor health and couldn't adapt to the environment in Eastern Europe. He planned to take a 2-year vacation. I'm ready to approve it. Bai Qingzhao was stunned. He had never thought that Jiang Shanyu would resign. Although Jiang Shanyu had not done anything in Eastern Europe, that place was too important after all. The giant group had never let down its guard against Jiang Shanyu. In more than a year, there had been very few personnel transfers in the Snowdance Corps, which had something to do with the existence of Jiang Shanyu. As one of the most eye-catching young people in Jianghu State today, even if Jiang Shanyu was not as dazzling as Li Tianlan and Wang Xingxiao, his evaluation in the outside world had gradually surpassed Gu Hanzhan. When it came to him, not to mention that the giant group was on guard, even the parliament of Jianghu State might not be completely at ease with him. And now he had resigned? What are his conditions? Bai Qingzhao asked. He wants to promote a group of people who belong to him in the Snowdance Corps. This person is thoughtful and doesn't care about the gains and losses of the Snowdance Corps. I'm afraid he wants to form his own team. Dongqing Wudi shook his head. Anyway, at least for now, it's a good thing. Bai Qingzhao said yes and hung up the phone. Dongqing Wudi picked up Jiang Shangyu's vacation report again. After thinking about it, he sent it to the desert prison. In the desert prison, Qin Weibai, who got the facts as soon as possible, read the vacation report word by word. She put the report on the table, narrowed her bright and dreamy eyes, and murmured, "Is it going to start?" Chapter 825. Jiang Shangyu's leave report caused an unimaginable uproar in the entire upper echelon of Zhongzhou state. Jiang Shangyu's status alone might not be so important. But the most important thing was that for many people, it was a very critical signal. It took less than 3 days for Jiang Shangyu's second report to be submitted to the military headquarters again. The report was personally drafted by him and explained in detail the reason why he needed to take a leave, his physical condition, and the reasons that led to this condition. It was reasonable and evidence-based. If one only looked at the report, one would not find any logical flaws. Dongqing Wudi was very satisfied with this. This was indeed a watertight person. Once this report was handed in, as long as Jiang Shangyu insisted on leaving, there was no reason for the parliament to disagree. Dongqing Wudi kept the report for about half a month. In the process of many secret operations, Jiang Shangyu was unexpectedly a little anxious. He seemed to be fed up with the cold weather and long darkness in Eastern Europe. He didn't want to stay in Eastern Europe for a moment. He contacted Dongqing Wudi several times in a row, hoping that the parliament and the army headquarters could approve his report as soon as possible. For nearly a month, Dongqing Wudi communicated with several important figures of the Southeast Group many times and flew to Tiannan in person. Just after the Mid-Autumn Festival, Dongqing Wudi finally signed his name on the report. The report that had been in his office for more than a month was directly passed from the army headquarters to the Hidden Dragon Sea. It was the beginning of the month. It was the perfect time to hold a parliamentary discussion. The Hidden Dragon Sea held a parliamentary meeting as soon as it received the leave report. It was not only because of Jiang Shangyu's long leave that people thought he was crazy. It was also because of Eastern Europe. Because of the significance of Eastern Europe to Li Tianlan and the Giant Group. At the meeting, Li Huaqing personally contacted Jiang Shangyu, who was in Eastern Europe, and asked him in detail about the reason for his leave, as if he had never seen the report. Jiang Shangyu's answer was highly consistent with the report. His tone was sincere and his attitude was very firm. Li Huaqing encouraged Jiang Shangyu, but there was undisguised disappointment in his subtle expression. The position of commander of the Snowdance Corps had been vacant for more than a year, and the biggest reason was because of Jiang Shangyu. The parliament intended to let Jiang Shangyu be promoted to army commander, but the Giant Group had always strongly opposed it. Moreover, Jiang Shangyu had a deep mind. Li Huaqing inevitably hesitated and did not insist on this appointment. In fact, Wang Xingxiao had a clear position first, and Li Tianlan had an ambiguous attitude. When facing Jiang Shangyu, both Li Huaqing and Chen Fangqing had some concerns. For them, the perfect result was that Jiang Shangyu would not join the army. He held the position of commander-in-chief, but he stayed in Eastern Europe as a vice-marshal. His laziness was very much in line with their wishes. Laziness did not compete for power, but it did not mean that his existence was not a deterrent. With Jiang Shangyu's ability, as long as he stayed in the Snowdance Corps, even if he did nothing, Li Tianlan and the Giant Group would not be completely at ease. At that time, as long as they could get closer to Jiang Shangyu, they would have more bargaining chips when facing Li Tianlan. The balance was almost perfect. However, Jiang Shangyu took the initiative to break the balance. Leave. 2 years. Dongqing Wudi was ecstatic. Li Huaqing was extremely disappointed. For the time being, he did not understand what this leave meant. But even if it did not mean that Jiang Shangyu was close to the Giant Group, at least it proved that Jiang Shanyu officially and completely withdrew from the game between the parliament and Beihai, and refused to be a pawn of the Zhongzhou state parliament. He was far away in Eastern Europe, which seemed not to be the key, but his position determined whether Li Tianlan could really have the final say in the giant group in the future. In fact, when many people were staring at this game, they were also silently watching Jiang Shanyu, wanting to see what he could do. Then, people saw his resignation. This kind of signal was so obvious. Li Huaqing could imagine that when the news spread out, some forces who decided to unite with the Zhongzhou state parliament after many hesitations would definitely have a change of heart. He was afraid that more people would also withdraw from this game under the influence of Jiang Shanyu's resignation. And they also had to spend more energy to integrate their camp and unite all forces to launch a general attack on the Wang family of Beihai. But all of this took time. There was less than a year before next year's election. And the so-called consideration on Li Tianlan's side could not be delayed for too long. What they lacked most now was time. Jiang Shanyu's action could be said to have disrupted their plan to a certain extent. Beihai Province. When would the chaos they had been looking forward to break out? Li Huaqing was a little irritable. This kind of irritation even showed up at the meeting. And Dongxing Wudi proposed the new commander of the Snowdance Corps at the first moment when his mind was wavering. The former commander of the Heavenly Eagle Force in Zhongzhou State. The Heavenly Eagle of the Li family. Yang Peng. There was no preparation in advance. Dongxing Wudi naturally proposed this candidate, which was a surprise attack. But no one objected. And no one agreed. There was a very strange silence in the conference room. In Jiang. Before Jiang Shanyu's report came to the Hidden Dragon Sea, today's meeting was still about personnel, but it was about the personnel of the Southeast Group and the Giant Group. This time, it was not to shuffle and weaken them. Li Huaqing and Chen Fangqing made up their minds to adjust at least a few heavyweight positions. For this reason, they even got the support of the Beihai Group. 2 members of the Beihai Group agreed to be the vanguard and take the lead. Now, as soon as Jiang Shanyu's leave report came out, the 2 members of the Beihai Group, who had been ready, suddenly became silent. Dongxing Wudi had taken the initiative of the whole meeting. Sky Eagle Yang Peng as the commander of the Snowdance Corps. This seemed to be an internal handover of the giant group, but in the long run, it meant too many things. No one wanted to agree. But no one dared to object. In the long silence, Li Huaqing decided to vote. He would not provoke Li Tianlan at this time, but he would not agree to this appointment. So the vote on Eagle King at the meeting had the most dramatic result in recent years. Li Huaqing agreed to the appointment. But Hua Zhengyang, another giant of the academics, objected. Director Guo Wentian of the Prince Group supported it. Prime Minister Chen Fangqing objected. A director of the Southeast Group was absent at this meeting. At the same time, at this meeting, Wang Qinglei objected to the appointment, and the members of the giant group also objected. Different voices appeared at the same time in their respective groups. Li Huaqing did not even look at the statistical results. He pondered for a moment and finally said that because of the big differences, the appointment was postponed. After temporarily putting this matter aside, Li Huaqing did not discuss other personnel issues but chose to dismiss the meeting directly. The news of Jiang Shanyu's resignation had spread throughout Zhongzhou State that day. The violent shock lasted for nearly half a month. Li Huaqing and Chen Fangqing left Yuzhou together again and went to different provinces in Zhongzhou State for inspection. The continuous inspection lasted for more than a month. Under the watchful eyes of countless people, on the second day after the 2 giants returned to Yuzhou, the relatively clear news finally came out. The news did not come from the Hidden Dragon Sea. It came from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs made it clear that Wang Qinglei, a member of the Parliament of Zhongzhou State and the Speaker of Wuxia Province, would visit the 3 European countries in the near future. England, Germain, and Italos. Autumn was coming to an end. Winter was coming. Chapter 8:26. The early winter brought with it the first snow. The winter in Beihai was extremely cold. Wang Xianxia, who had already put on his coat, stood on the stage a formidable person. Looking at the calm surface of the North Sea, he exhaled a breath of white air and asked, "Where is Wang Qinglei?" "Next stop is Italos." Xian Ming stood behind Wang Xianxia and glanced at Lu Shuanghua intentionally or unintentionally. Seeing that Lu Shuanghua had no intention to speak, he replied, "When he was in England, he visited the Rothschild family." The corners of Wang Xianxiao's mouth twitched in a mocking manner. After the chaos in Eastern Europe, the Shadow Throne, which once dominated the dark world of Europe and could oppose the Vatican tit for tat, had long fallen apart. However, Rothschild was still the top wealthy family in Europe. Even if Queen Qingtong of the Dark Shadow was disabled by Li Tianlan and Patriarch Paul was seriously injured by Li Tianlan, their position in Europe was still deeply rooted. There might still be crises, but the system of Europe was different from that of Jianghu state. It was enough for Rothschild to face everything calmly and not be overwhelmed. Rothschild had a good relationship with the Wang family of Beihai. Wang Qinglei was also a member of the Wang family of Beihai. On this trip to England, it was unlikely that he would win the support of Rothschild. Wang Qinglei probably wanted a neutral attitude. Maybe he didn't know Paul well enough. But Wang Xiaoyao, who was also a direct descendant, had this face. If this kind of strong aid helped the Wang family of Beihai, there would be too many variables. No one would feel indifferent. If Rothschild could stand aside, the pressure Wang Qinglei faced would be much less. Patriarch, Rothschild, Xian Ming wanted to say something but hesitated. Wang Xianxiao shook his head and said in a calm tone, "I just talked to Patriarch Paul on the phone. The Rothschild family is not peaceful at the moment. Moreover, Paul and Qingtong are both recovering from their injuries and can't take action, so the Rothschild family can't give us any support this time." Xian Ming nodded and didn't say anything. It was a good thing to have Rothschild's help. But without them, Mount Dibing could accept it. He was most worried that Rothschild would be persuaded by Wang Qinglei. Now it seemed that Wang Xianxiao meant that Rothschild might not help him, but at least he would not help Wang Qinglei. This was a result that both sides could accept. "Is there any other news?" Wang Xianxiao asked softly. "About second. About Wang Xiaoyao." Xian Ming paused. After a pause, he said quietly, "We have received accurate information that Wang Xiaoyao is currently paying attention to Dalos. To be more precise, he is in the sanctuary. Not only him, but Jiang Guochu and Yagyu Kurumi are also in the Holy Land." Although Tianhai Wuji is still in East Island, a deputy palace master of Wuji Palace is already on his way to Europe. Wang Xianxiao took a deep breath and remained silent for a long time. The invisible yet tangible pressure was getting closer and closer. His eyes were looking in the direction of Europe, cold and indifferent. Wang Qinglei. Wang Tianzong had been on guard against him before but had no time to deal with him. After drawing a clear line with the Southeast group, Wang Tianzong officially became the enemy of Mount Dibing. Everyone knew why he was visiting Europe. The whole world knew. His goal was clear. Wang Xiaoyao, the Vatican, Knights Templars, the Jiang family of South America, Jifeng Sword Raining School, Wuji Palace, everyone was focused on Dalos and waiting for Wang Qinglei. Then, it was time for an all-out attack. The entire North Sea province was the battlefield. A reign of terror. The world was turned upside down. Wang Xianxiao smiled. His smile was like the first snow falling from the sky, gentle but extremely cold. "It won't be that easy." He muttered to himself and repeated, "It won't be that easy." The all-out attack launched by several superpowers was about to begin. But before that, Wang Xianxiao wanted to give them a surprise. A big surprise. "How's the situation in Jianghu state?" Wang Xianxiao asked in a low voice. "It's not bad." Lu Shuanghua, who was standing with Xian Ming, thought for a while and said, "We have a tacit understanding with the giant group. And now it seems that the reaction caused by Jiang Shangyu's resignation is unexpectedly good." Many forces who have been interested in standing with Jianghu state have shown varying degrees of hesitation. Some powerful families have even completely withdrawn from this action. This should also be This should also be the reason why Wang Qinglei is in a hurry to visit the 3 European countries. Wang Xingxiao said yes. The strength of the Wang family of Beihai and the Southeast Group had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people in Jianghu state. No matter how powerful the parliament was, the forces that they roped in would inevitably feel uneasy. When a sensitive person made a sensitive choice, their originally shaky hearts would naturally become even more anxious. Gavin's heart wavered. Jiang Shangyu was a sensitive person who made a sensitive choice in a sensitive period. His choice would naturally affect some people. This kind of inner wavering and apprehension was not something that could be reversed with the so-called ideological work. Therefore, while the giant group and the academics were busy wooing people, they were also speeding up the plan. Most of the issues in the war in Beihai would be settled during Wang Qinglei's visit. As long as chaos broke out, the wealthy families who were wavering but did not withdraw would have little choice. How about Emperor Dong's palace? Wang Xingxiao asked. We have been in touch with Emperor Dong's palace. At present, they have confirmed that the first batch of nearly 600 elites will be led by Du Hanin and Su Chu to support Beihai province. But Emperor Dong's palace wants to see our actions first. Lu Shuanghua furrowed her brows and said in a quick tone. Du Hanin was a core high-level member of Emperor Dong's palace. Although Su Chu was not in charge, he was also one of the high-level members. Moreover, Su Chu had been in the thunder-shocking realm for many years. During the final battle in Heaven Capital more than 4 years ago, he had already vaguely had the strength to fight against the peak of the thunder-shocking realm. Now he was even not weaker than the ordinary half-step invincible realm experts. Du Hanin had the wind vein, and it was a mutated wind vein to a certain extent. Although she had not reached the peak of the thunder-shocking realm, she could already be said to be the top assassin in Sai City or Emperor Dong's palace. Is this the only group of people? Wang Xingxiao frowned and seemed to be a little disappointed. The second list is being worked out. If nothing goes wrong, it should be by Yu Ming who will lead the team. Lu Shuanghua continued, but the premise remains the same. The so-called premise was that Emperor Dong's palace should first see the actions of the Wang family of Beihai. The early intelligence had been given out. For example, Wang Xingxiao wanted to do something to prove Mount Dibing's determination in this war and game. Okay. Wang Xingxiao nodded. How are your preparations going? Very good. Xian Ming grinned grimly. We have now locked down nearly 600 lurkers. As long as the Patriarch says so, within 3 hours, they will all become corpses. Nice gift. Wang Xingxiao said calmly, since the distinguished guests haven't arrived yet, let's hurry up and deliver it to them. Tell them that the Wang family of Beihai welcomes them to come to Beihai to die. Chapter 827. Even the purest affection had different standpoints. Tsing Yu was an electrical engineer in Qiushui City. He was nearly 50 years old and had been working in Qiushui City for more than 20 years. The Wang family of Beihai, which treated every inch of land in Beihai province as its own, was a little different from Jianghu state. All kinds of technical talents could basically find a good job in Beihai. The so-called stars were not popular in Beihai. The most dazzling figure here was Sword Emperor. No one dared to say that Sword Emperor Wang Tianzong was a star. For more than 20 years, Wang Tianzong was like the sun in the hearts of more than 20 million people in Beihai province. This was the most rigorous and pragmatic province in the whole of Jianghu state. There were no fancy things. As long as one had real talent, one could quickly find a place to settle down here. Therefore, Tsing Yu lived a good life. He married a woman from Beihai here and had a daughter who was in high school. His wife was gentle and his daughter had good grades. Such a family might not be able to call the wind and summon the rain, but there was always a touch of comfort and happiness in their daily life. Tsing Yu was very satisfied with the present life. But he was very dissatisfied with the present life. He lived here and felt comfortable with everything here. But this kind of comfort was not the kind of comfort he imagined. Xing Yu's deepest impression was that he took his family to Europe for a vacation 3 years ago. In a restaurant in France, a very polite waiter asked him politely when recommending the menu, "Sir, are you from Jianghu State? East Island? Or Beihai? Are you from Jianghu State or Beihai?" This sentence was like a knife, stabbing Xing Yu's heart hard. His wife looked proud and wanted to say something. That kind of pride was faint but real. It might not be contempt, but it was really an objective sense of superiority. People from Beihai had such a faint sense of superiority to people from all over Jianghu State and all over the world. But Xing Yu interrupted his wife and said very seriously, "I'm from Beihai, Jianghu State." Yes, he was from Jianghu State first. Then he was from Beihai. Beihai belonged to Jianghu State. This was the belief that he had always insisted in his heart. This belief had existed for many years. But he was increasingly sad to find that the sacred and solemn belief he insisted on was becoming weaker and weaker in Beihai. The people of Beihai also admitted that Beihai belonged to Jianghu State. But no matter what, the first thing they talked about was the North Sea. The happiness of Xing Yu's family was also in Beihai. He used to be immersed in happiness, but when he came back to his senses, he always felt that his happiness had a sense of alienation, as if he was being rejected by the entire province. He is Xing Yu, an electrical engineer in Qiushui City, Beihai. Master. He was Xing Yu, a member of the 7th team of the 9th Division of the 11th Department of the Jianghu State Ministry of Security. His code name was Gopher. In recent years, it was true that Fan Tianyin, the general of the Wang family of Beihai, was the minister of the Ministry of Security. But in such a sensitive and powerful department, even the minister could not master many things in detail. It could even be said that he did not have the authority to master them. The Ministry of State Security did have an 11th division. There was indeed a 9th room in the 11th game. All of this information could be found on the internet. However, even Fan Tianyin did not know that there was a 7th team within the 9th Bureau of the 11th Bureau. This establishment did not exist at all. Xing Yu was the deputy team leader of Team 7, with the rank of colonel. Just from his rank, one could see the value of Team 7. More than 20 years ago, when he was still very young, he was one of the executors of the hibernation plan. Xing Yu did not know the specific goal of the hibernation plan, and he did not even know how many people there were in his 7th team. There were only 2 team members who contacted him on a daily basis. Now, even in the public eye, they were friends who had a good relationship. As for his direct leader, the patriarch of Team 7, Xing Yu did not know who he was. For more than 20 years, all their communication was encrypted phone calls or emails. And Xing Yu's task was to lurk in Qiushui City and try to master everything about Qiushui City. Yes, everything. It was a huge and confusing range. The operation of Qiushui City, the relationship between people, the state of people's livelihood, even the price rise or fall, and the staff replacement of the Qiushui City government. Everything was in it. Xing Yu would write a report every year, and then he would wait. Hibernation. When the flowers bloomed in the spring. He knew a lot about Qiushui City and Beihai. The more he knew, the more confused he was. Because for the people living in Beihai, this place was really beautiful, and the people here did have the confidence to be proud. Let's take the simplest example. In more than 20 years in Qiushui City, there had been 16 cases of corruption and bribery in Qiushui City. The largest amount of corruption was 60 million yuan. The smallest amount was 310,000 yuan. 16 corrupt officials. All of them were executed within half a month after the incident. Without exception. For corruption and bribery, the only punishment in Beihai was the death penalty. There was no second punishment, regardless of the amount. Beihai's strict restrictions on officials were almost cruel, which was rare in the world. Similarly, Beihai's benefits for officials were so rich that they were almost luxurious, which was also rare in the world. In the real data released by Beihai, the annual salary of Wen Siyuan, a member of Jianghu State and the Speaker of Beihai Province, was 46 million Zhongzhou dollars. Yes, that's 46 million. Yes, it was real. The governor of Beihai province also enjoyed this annual salary. The speaker and mayor of Chushui city received the third tier of civil servants in Beihai, 27 million yuan. All the way down to the grassroots, the annual salary of an ordinary staff in a department in Chushui city was 750,000 Zhongzhou dollars. Plus various benefits on weekdays and holidays, the annual salary of an ordinary staff at the grassroots level was nearly 1 million. The treatment of the people's police, fire police, armed police, and the army was higher. High salary, honesty, and cruel management of officials. Beihai could be said to have done the best in this regard. The absolute high salary had been consuming the financial resources of Mount Dibing, and Mount Dibing was replenishing it from other places. It was a continuous cycle, which directly led to the simplification and efficiency of various institutions in Beihai under the control of Mount Dibing. There were 8 deputy governors in Beihai. At the city level, there were usually only 3 to 4 deputy government officials, and there were no temporary workers. Everyone was doing their best in their positions, and there was almost no bootlicking. The civilians living here were very happy, because their problems would be completely solved by the government in the shortest time possible. The businessmen who invested here were very happy, because all the rules were clearly in front of them. What they wanted to do, they had to go through the approval procedures. If they could do it, they could do it. If they couldn't, they couldn't. It was straightforward. The civil servants living here were very at ease. As long as they did things seriously, they would have the opportunity to be promoted. The government was clean, and the whole Beihai was positive. Compared with Zhongzhou State, it was more like a real utopia. For hundreds of years, the huge wealth of Beihai was completely used in every field and every corner of Beihai. It was no exaggeration to say that it had now become the most promising province in Zhongzhou State. Because it was the best. It was the result of Beihai province's unremitting efforts for hundreds of years. However, in Xing Yu's view, this kind of development had now reached the bottleneck and limit. There were only 2 ways ahead of Beihai. One was to be completely accepted by Zhongzhou State, and Zhongzhou State would learn from the experience of Beihai and use its resources to slowly promote some of its models throughout Zhongzhou State. This possibility was undoubtedly a real spring day for Zhongzhou State. The other result was that Beihai would continue to absorb the resources of Zhongzhou State. Beihai would become stronger and stronger, and eventually turn from guest to host, making Zhongzhou State a part of Beihai. For Zhongzhou State, this was a real cold winter. Xing Yu had never forgotten his duty and identity. So after many years, as soon as the hibernation plan became the awakening plan, he did not hesitate to hand over all the resources he had mastered over the years. The hibernation plan had become the awakening plan. Late at night, Xing Yu sat calmly in the study and wrote a letter seriously. Chapter 828. The snow outside the window fell on the ground. The pen in his hand fell on it. It made a rustling sound. Xing Yu's expression was focused and solemn. The content he wrote in his hand was a bunch of meaningless gibberish in the eyes of others. It needed a corresponding set of code words to translate. It was all about the situation in Chushui City. His thinking was smooth and clear, and there was no pause in his writing. The Beihai he liked was the Beihai of Zhongzhou State. It was destined to be the coldest time before the warm spring flowers bloomed. If this cold could be endured by Beihai in exchange for a better Zhongzhou State and a better future, it was definitely worth it. He couldn't represent anyone, and he couldn't make decisions for Beihai. But this was his personal thought and will, just like the letter he was writing now, it was only his personal thought and will. In more than 20 years, the top spy in the code of an electrodynamics engineer had nearly 30 loyal men of sacrifice in his hands. He himself was an expert at the peak of the thunder-shocking realm. He used all the resources in his hands to form a detailed network of contacts, and this network occupied most of the content of his letter. He really liked Beihai that completely belonged to Zhongzhou State. This game had nothing to do with right or wrong, justice or evil, greatness, or despicableness. There was only victory or defeat, only the result. He thought this result was right, so he went all out without reservation. If they could succeed, decades later, when they were old, they might be able to proudly tell their descendants that it was they who led the future direction and path of Beihai. The letter was very long. Xingyu changed several sheets of letter paper. The hibernation plan was over. This should be the last report before the awakening plan was launched, so Xingyu took out all the chips in his heart. He had nearly 30 men of sacrifice. Beside him were 2 of his colleagues who had participated in the hibernation plan with him. Now, one of them was already a high-ranking official in the Choshui city government, while the other was a famous doctor in Choshui. Both of them had also secretly cultivated their own team. Due to excessive caution, the scale of such a team was not large. The 3 of them added up, the number of people they could use was about 80. But also because of caution, these dozens of people were completely trusted confidants. As the deputy team leader of Team 7, who had been lurking in autumn water, Xingyu had spent a long time researching what kind of effect these people could have when they were put together. From the very beginning until now, over 20 years had passed, Xingyu had been pondering over the countless combinations that could play an incomparably huge role. And this was what he was writing in the letter now. If he gave it his all, he and his 2 colleagues could assassinate 2 second-level targets, 5 third-level targets, and some other key figures in Choshui City in 6 hours. They could make Choshui City fall into the greatest chaos in the first place. The so-called second-level assassination target was Xingyu's own standard. In his mind, there were 6 second-level targets in Choshui City. The mayor and the speaker of Choshui City were second-level targets, and there were several core members of the Huangfu family in Choshui City. The first-level target was the patriarch of the Huangfu family. Xingyu was confident to assassinate the 2 second-level targets. One was the mayor of Choshui City, and the other was a core member of the Huangfu family. Once these 2 people died, the entire Choshui City would be completely shocked within a few hours. In order to track down the murderer, the Huangfu family must take a series of measures, and they could not care about the action of Mount Dibbing. And similar lurking groups, Xingyu could be sure that there was at least one group in Choshui City. And other cities in Beihai province should also have such lurking groups. As long as they took action, the entire Beihai would be in darkness. Xingyu took a deep breath and thought of his life in Beihai for more than 20 years. A touch of pity flashed in his heart, and then he became firm. He picked up the pen again. Without using code words, he directly wrote 4 words at the end of the letter. For Zhongzhou State. He looked at the signature on the letter, carefully recalled the content of the letter, and said with some satisfaction, "Not bad." Behind him, another person also said with satisfaction, "Not bad." In the dead of night. There was only the sound of falling snow outside the window. The sudden praise fell in Xingyu's ears like a thunder. His brain became blank in an instant, and his body tensed up. The power of the peak of the thunder-shocking realm was condensed completely out of instinct. A dazzling electric arc flashed in his hand. He reached out. Attack. Hum. A muffled groan of extreme pain sounded. Xingyu's attack did not cause any movement. The dazzling electric arc became extremely weak at the moment he attacked. He raised his arm, and then it flew out. Blood sprayed directly on the ground from the broken arm. In the light footsteps, a slender hand with a scar on the back of the hand reached out and took away the letter he had just written. Xingyu, whose face was distorted because of the pain, was still at a loss. He turned his head carefully. Standing in his line of sight was a tall, short-haired woman with a long scar on her face, expressionless. She held the letter and lowered her head to read the contents. After a long while, she slowly said, "I don't understand." Xingyu's body trembled involuntarily in pain. He gritted his teeth and was about to say something harsh, but the woman had directly thrown the letter in her hand in another direction. "Explain, what do you mean?" Xingyu wanted to turn his body in that direction, but as soon as he moved one leg, the heart-wrenching pain suddenly spread from his leg to his brain. There was no raging fire, no thunder, no vibration of the air around him, and it was not the domain of the invincible realm. He did not feel any danger. But at this moment, it seemed that everything around him was dangerous. It was as if his body was tightly bound by an incomparably sharp but invisible rope. Even the slightest movement would cause him to bleed profusely, and he might even be torn to pieces. He glanced at the woman beside him out of the corner of his eye. She stood quietly, but the aura all over her body was like that of a fierce and silent beast. At this moment, Xingyu did not think about who she was. He was curious as to how the other party had come and how they knew his identity. "This is our code word." A hoarse voice sounded behind Xingyu. The trembling voice was filled with extreme fear and pain. "This is a network of contacts, all of which belong to the men of sacrifice trained by him and the other 2 team members. The letter wrote the identity of the men of sacrifice and what they could do together." "What is it?" the beast-like short-haired woman asked in a flat tone. She stood there like a real beast, light, sharp, calm, and incomparably ferocious. The 7th team, the voice behind him was silent for a while. No one knew whether it was hesitation or to ease the pain. "The 3rd member of the 7th team is now the secretary of the mayor of Chuxue City. Do you know what you are doing?" Xingyu suddenly growled in a sharp voice. He opened his eyes wide, and his eyes were full of disbelief. His letter was written in their own code word. To be exact, it was the code word of the 7th team. Except for the members of their team, no one could understand the content of the code word. There were 4 members in the 7th team. He was the deputy captain and number 2. The identity of number 3 had been revealed. He was very familiar with number 4 and his voice. The voice behind him was not the voice of number 4. The only answer. He was the leader of the 7th team. Everything had an answer. Xingyu finally knew why the beast around him would find him here. She caught the leader of the 7th team. Ironically, even Xingyu did not know who the leader was. So how did she know? "Shut up." The woman waved her hand. Xingyu also could not feel any fluctuations in martial arts. He could not see the slightest light and shadow, but his whole body was completely imprisoned in an instant. He could not say a word. "Go on." She casually walked a few steps and pointed to the letter. In the corner where Xingyu could not see, the intermittent voice became more and more frightened and dry, but also clearer and clearer. Clearly, he read the letter almost word by word. Xingyu's face was ashen. It was hard for him to believe that the 7th team had such a spineless patriarch. The woman listened silently and then waved her hand again. The invisible imprisonment disappeared in an instant. Xingyu regained the ability to speak. "You want to play big?" The woman looked at him with a playful look in her eyes. "If it was before, I would be very happy to see this scene, but I promised my sister." She suddenly shook her head in annoyance and lost interest in continuing. She just said, "Is what he said true? Do you have anything to add?" "Who are you?" Xingyu turned his head slightly. His face was instantly drenched in blood. Coupled with his resentful and despairing eyes, he looked incomparably ferocious. "Xia Huang." The woman said faintly, "Xia Ji's sister." Xingyu smiled bitterly. "When did you?" His cell phone suddenly rang. Phoenix frowned, took out the phone, looked at the number, and directly answered, "What's the matter?" "Auntie, how is Chuxue City?" Wang Xingxiao's voice came from the phone, cold and gloomy. "The 7th team has been solved, but I'm not sure if there are other teams." Phoenix said calmly. "Ask." Wang Xingxiao took a deep breath. There was obvious anger and killing intent in his voice, but he was trying hard to restrain himself. "Ask the leader of the 7th team about the latest task they received. How is the implementation going? Is there any clue?" Wang Xingxiao's voice could be said to be said with a pause, and Phoenix could even clearly feel the sound of his teeth gritting. "The latest task? What task?" Phoenix glanced at the leader of the 7th team. The patriarch, who had already had a nervous breakdown, shook his head blankly. He doesn't know. Phoenix said directly. He didn't believe that the other party would dare to lie in his hands. He probably didn't receive the task. So there must be another team in Qiushui City. Wang Xingxiao sneered. Maybe. Phoenix nodded. I'll take the people of the 7th team back. You can ask carefully. No need. Wang Xingxiao's voice was cold. Kill them all. Phoenix was slightly stunned. Kill them all? This was completely different from the original plan. These were all people from Jianghu State, especially the leader of the 7th team, who was only half a step away from being a general. Kill them all? Phoenix narrowed her eyes. Are you sure? These are all Jianghu State. Kill. Kill them all. Send the bodies back to Jianghu State. These bastards, they are now looking for Yuetong. The latest task this group of people received is to kill Yuetong. They deserve to die, they all deserve to die. Wang Xingxiao suddenly roared, kill them all. Phoenix was stunned for a moment and silently hung up the phone. Xingyu, who had heard the rage of the new patriarch of Beihai, looked stupefied. He looked at Phoenix in front of him without saying a word. It seems that you are very determined. Phoenix said slowly, so determined, she slowly raised her hand. She flicked her fingers gently. Phoenix's voice became the only sound in Xingyu's ears. Do you really want to die so badly? Xingyu opened his eyes wide. Before he died, his keen and incredible observation finally allowed him to discover the way this woman attacked. In the stable space, there seemed to be a grain on her finger. It was sparkling and translucent, like a tiny ice crystal that was hard to notice. The ice crystal landed on his body. Suddenly, there was only a surging tide in his ears. The surging tide was a dazzling scarlet red. The blood all over Xingyu's body burst out in an instant. Countless amounts of blood gathered and compressed in the air, fell into Phoenix's hand, and turned into a crystal clear scarlet bead. Phoenix directly threw the bead into her mouth and ate it. She said calmly, then go to hell. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.